Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you guys for being here. This is, I think, our fourth or fifth meeting now that we've done through this referral UAT process. But today we're going to be going over your feedback from this last release. So over, sending and responding to referrals. So we may chat through that just to make sure we fully understand some of the ideas that were presented, so that we can properly put things in development to help with the flow, help with the usability of those different pieces of the system. But then we will also move into our next release, which is focused on dashboards and reporting, which there are a few of you that I've had conversations with that I know reporting is very important. And I think this is where we can gain a lot of great insight to develop really great reporting and dashboard functionality for you all. And where we aren't the experts in it and you guys are. So we're going to have some really good conversation about that, and go through a little bit of a demo today as well after we go through the feedback from this last release. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. But we're going to cover feedback from the previous release here first. So again, release 3 was focused on sending and responding to referrals, right? So being the referring organization and then kind of switching roles or taking and then putting on the hat of responding to a referral. So we got some great feedback out of that with you guys using both of those mindsets as you tested. So can everybody see my screen? I just want to make sure.
Yes, we can see
Yes. All right. Thank you guys. Okay, perfect. So what we'll go through first, we went through and reviewed this as a development team this morning as well. But one we got when it comes to adding a referral is when, let's see, when I go to select referral, nothing comes up. So in instances, whenever we have maybe not a service provider for that specific type of service, there's a couple things that we're adding to the system for that, where we can have like a number of providers available so that you can see that as you're going in and selecting, but then also kind of a no providers at this time tag so that you would be able to see that without clicking on it and then having to unclick it. But we've also added some functionality to help with that as well if there wasn't somebody available, to make it a little bit easier to remove that service from your referral. So we'll go through that here in a moment. Actually, I'll probably just pull it up now so you guys can see. So when it comes to that example, let's say we're adding a referral. I think veteran services is one where if we clicked on that and added it, right, there's nothing coming up within here, but we're going to be adding some functionality that would let you know that like 0 providers available, 1 provider available. And then from there, we've also added this functionality that's going to break down, depending on where that person is at, like what their zip code is, how far these different services are. So you'd be able to see that. But from there too, let's say, we don't have anybody that provides this anymore. So that's one of the things I want to take off the list. You'd be able to hit remove here to make that a little bit easier without having to go back up here and unselect. So that's something from the feedback we got from previous releases that you guys really helped us put into development here. Okay, let me go back to the referral book. Okay, one of them we got from Carrie. We're seeing what you were seeing here where it comes to like adding a referral, and let's see, go back. And these up here are more like filters, but that's not like super obvious. So we're going to make some clarifications on this page so that it wasn't like, I'm trying to add one. So just kind of breaking that out and giving some more context around this page with this being filters up at the top. Okay, let's see. This is another one based on kind of this first comment up here. So if there wasn't a site available, you couldn't see that right away and it just kind of stopped the process. So we're getting a user story created for that. And then same thing, Gerald, with yours. when there wasn't one available, it wasn't showing, which just kind of made it a little bit more disconnected of a flow. So those are great feedback that we started getting some fixes in there for, and you've seen some of them have even, been put in from that release 2 where we worked on adding referrals. So I want to pause for a moment to see if there's any other questions, any other feedback when it comes to adding a referral. Otherwise, we'll move into like the sending and responding piece. Okay. So quite a bit of feedback on sending referrals as well, but most of it was really around kind of like the functionality of
Hey, Kelly.
like the oh, yes.
Sorry, I think that I don't know why it's not displaying under the adding a referral, but I think there was some more feedback. Like, I think Patty had some feedback, and
Oh, it's down here. I missed it.
yeah, I don't, for whatever reason, when I was doing screenshots, it wasn't loading it. So I'm like, I think there's a lot, there's a lot more feedback in there.
Yes, okay, there is some here that I did not see earlier. It just wasn't in my selection here. Okay. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, no worries. And there's a lot there. So if we need to,
Okay.
if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, we'll probably take a look at this and make sure that way if it's something that's in relation to other ones we've looked at that I can come back and we can review even on the next call, or I can connect with people if there's other questions to make sure that we don't miss anything and have the time to make sure we look at it, because I also don't want to speed through it either. So okay, thank you, Kelly. We'll go to the sending referrals piece next. So when it comes to this one, we got some good feedback in terms of just kind of some functionality of whenever you're adding a referral. So in terms of, let's say I have here a daycare center, for example. And if I'm going to choose this one and go ahead and hit save, there were a few things here that were happening with like the consent status and suggestions made of like, I can't, this kind of, blends in here if there's no consent. So we've looked at where we can kind of highlight this a little bit better for everyone to show you when it's active or not active or needs renewed, just so it's a little bit more obvious. Additionally, from there as well, we've added some functionality of, to prevent sending multiple referrals, that once it's sent, this kind of like grays out, or like it can turn into like a resend referral button. That way, you haven't sent it, 3 or 4 times. So that is something that we're aware of and have a story in the works for. Also, whenever, and there were a couple things too where it said like if it was requiring putting notes in, we were able to make that work, or like reproduce that if you updated consent here, save, and then let's say they were just trying to hit save here, then our failed update referral pops up, and again this toast message here of the error is going to have some actual error here of what's going on. And then the other thing is these will be staying up here a little bit longer so the user can make sure that they can see these and if they need to clear them out. But if we were going to be doing, hey, I'm going to send this to a test contact, you should be able to move forward without notes being required. So, and then after that, another thing too, with the send referral being at the top right, we did get some feedback as well to maybe move that down, below the save. So that way, once it sends, it's instead of going from here back up, some feedback that we got there, just in terms of kind of the layout and the flow of that page so far. Let's see. It looks like there was from Michelle, you were wanting to make sure that the system includes the information bubbles wherever possible, especially on required information. So we do have a story in the works to make sure that we have those info bubbles where it makes sense, or maybe where something could be up to interpretation, to make sure that the career planners have access to that, or our partners have access to that. So that piece is in the works based on feedback. Okay. Kelly had some feedback here too on, whenever you went to, like, if you originally said no and then went back to say yes. It looks like maybe you were thinking there just needs a little bit more clarity, Kelly, in terms of, like, okay, it was no before, but now I want to yes, renew consent, or maybe I had a yes before and now I want to revoke consent. So we were thinking a yes, renew consent versus no, revoke consent, if you're updating it later. Based on your feedback. Okay, perfect. Thumbs up. Okay. Oh yeah, this is what we mentioned before. So a couple people called out, if we could highlight the consent status because it's a little bit hidden in there. So we've got that piece going. Based on kind of what we've been doing in other systems like IWDS, we were thinking, like highlight the word in like a colored fashion, but then maybe also have an icon of like a green check mark for, active, and X for like no consent to make it pop out a little bit more on the page. So if there's any other feedback around that, we have that user story in the works for development. Okay. Couple people receiving that error that I mentioned. If you're trying to hit save before you add the primary contact, that error pops up, but we're gonna redesign that page a little bit to help with that. And then the error messages also need to flag when it isn't filled out. So rather than just saying there's an error. So that is what I mentioned too, that we're going to add detail to those error messages, and then they would stay there until the user can view them and read them. So then if they look at it, they can clear it out. Otherwise, they were popping up and just kind of disappearing after a second or two. That way it's not missed. Okay, and then this one I mentioned as well, that you accidentally sending that referral 3 times because it wasn't obvious that it's sent correctly. So that piece is in the works as well to make sure that it would change to a referral sent or gray the button out once it's been sent. Okay, and then from here we had, making that consent status more prominent. Okay, this is one I had a question about. I can't send a referral because I can't enter my person and they aren't already in the system. So I think with this one, I think Joel, maybe was that just the person that you were trying to submit one for wasn't
Oh, that isn't me.
Oh, who's JD? I will look at my list. It's escaping me right now. Okay. Oh, there's 2 Joels, so maybe that was the other. That might have been the other one. Oh, yep, that's the case. Okay, so from there, consent status more prominent. We got that again. I know there were some instances where a test contact was not available. I tried to tie them to as many as you all had entered as possible throughout this testing process, but there's definitely probably a couple that I missed. So apologies on that, but it looks like this person found one where it was in the dropdown. Okay. Okay, yep. And this is the same thing where that error message needed to say, please save first or something like that. So we are working on those different things based on your all's feedback. So
I was just wondering, Kelly, would it be possible that if you hit send, that it would automatically save it? So you wouldn't have to do both?
Potentially.
I think that would be good. A save and submit button.
Oh, okay, yep. Save and submit button.
Or save and send, whatever makes more sense.
That way you're not having to do the 2 steps of save and then submit. Okay. That'll probably help alleviate.
Unless there's a reason that you would want to save it but not submit it, but I can't think what that would be.
Yeah. I could also see where it would, if you save it, you think it's been sent and it hasn't. So. Thank you. Okay. My spelling's so bad today. Sorry, guys. Okay, so great idea. Next one, we're going to go through responding a referral. So I know this one was a little bit trickier to test, given that, true fashion, it would be like you're sending it to someone, they're actually responding, but we're working with test data here. So I wanted to go through these because there was a lot of great feedback. So Michelle, I know it wasn't clear on how to respond to the referral. So what we did is kind of rethink that design, because you were not the only person that brought this up. There are a few people that had this, but we talked through like a redesign of the page today. So let me pop that up here. So in this case, right, here's your referral. If your contact receives an email, they will basically receive that link. I know some of you were able to test that properly. They would receive that email. They would click on that link and basically be able to access this page to update, what that status is. Down here is where they would update that status, but we realized based on the feedback that yes, there should be a little bit more context there, especially if we have somebody who's newer to this system, things like that, that they need to respond to. So one of the redesigns we've discussed is moving this referral status up to the top, with some direction to make sure career planners and or the organizations know what they need to do there, but then also maybe doing a drop down versus radio buttons. If we move to a drop down, we'll make sure that these little icons or info bubbles are here. That way that the direction is still there in terms of what those different statuses mean. Okay, let me pop into this one real quick.
Kelly, can you go back to that?
Yeah.
What page are you, like, can we see this from? The screen.
So this pops up from, so say I sent this referral, it pops this little link up here right now within the testing environment if you choose this a test contact. And then this is the same thing they would receive from an email as well. So it just pops them directly to like this page. So there's not really a way to access this page currently without like that link or from that email.
So this is what you would receive in the email?
Yes.
Okay.
But we've also gotten some really good feedback that we're going to go through right now on this call too, of ways and things we have in development based on things that you all have brought to light, right? Because there may be some people that there may be some organizations that use this really well, have no problem with it. And there may be some that you really have to more act on their behalf here and there to keep track of things. So we'll definitely, have some discussion about that. Because, we do understand that this might work for majority of organizations, and for some, it might not work as well they may not be as front of mind of getting this updated. So we're going to talk through some different things coming to development for that too.
Question on this page, veteran status is 2. How do we know what 2 means?
That is a good question. I'm assuming that's like not pulling over from a table correctly.
Yeah, correct.
Let me put that down.
And then moving forward, that link will always be there, or we can see that all of the screen without that link once it's all set up.
It will not always be there.
But we have another mock-up that incorporates some of your feedback too, as far as like a timeline, and also the ability to like respond on behalf of the person. So maybe like you can't get them to respond via email, but you give them a call and like, oh yeah, Natasha's already done. You can update it that way. So to be able to see the screen, you'd either have to, like in that case, resend it to that test account that Kelly put up there, Or you would need to log in as that test person, or after we get this other release, which is what Cody's working on in the sprint, is to be able to like respond on behalf of, you know, the person you're sent the referral to.
Yeah, but when we're at a test, they're not going to have to click on the link.
No.
Yeah, okay. All
No,
of
no,
that
no,
will
no,
be
no, no.
displaying. Okay.
Right. Yeah. They'll either get the link in the email, you know,
Yeah,
or they'll log in to get it.
sure.
And if they're like, oh, my link doesn't work any longer because it's only good for 7 or 14 days, I can't remember. But you can like resend the referral to them.
Oh, okay, because my suggestion would be like if there is like a hot link like that to the referral, that we just need to display that in a different spot on the screen so it's clear how to access that information.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was just there for testing,
Got it.
trying to keep people from having to log in multiple things.
Definitely. I originally told Cody, I was like, hey, I don't feel like it could be prettier. And I was like, oh, wait, this isn't going to always happen. So
Right.
we didn't waste too much development on it. But, anyways, okay.
I think Kathy's got her hand raised, Kelly.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Kathy.
Thank you. This is something, as I'm watching through this, I have a question. In all of our titles, we have to report co-enrollments at the end of every year. How many of our students were co-enrolled? And there's a lot of confusion, and I'm working with my Title II programs about what actually a co-enrollment is. So a co-enrollment is not a referral to a social service agency, or, it's very specific. Is there any way that we can put an icon or a note or a bold print and said, this agency counts as or this program counts as a co-enrollment? Because one of the things that I am seeing is people don't know which ones actually should be counted. So if you had like Title I, be out of school youth, Title I, be in school youth, Title II, whatever those specific core partners are for co-enrollment, is there a way to identify that so that the referrer is not a word, but I'm going to go with it, can identify that this is one that we need to track? Does that make sense? Or will there be a different way to track it in that reporting system? And does anybody else here report co-enrollment? Does that matter to anybody else?
Yeah, so Kathy, in 2.0, we'll be able to capture co-enrollment at the participant level. Because at that point they'll be enrolled there. And then if they're doing, and Natasha maybe flag this, like if they're doing the referral from IWDS 2.0, because they can either access it independently or part of the system. If they're working at the participant record level, they would be able to capture like if they're co-enrolled in another program there. So there might be a possibility to kind of flag if the participant's co-enrolled. I don't know if there's a way to really flag if like what constitutes as a co-enrolled program. To your point, Kathy, I mean, maybe that's where we take like the referral guide and then kind of make a glossary and flag that.
For us, for Title II, it's only a Title I, Title III, or Title IV program. That's it. So many of these other entities that are social services that add so much value to the experience of our clients, that's wonderful. And those referrals need to happen. They're just not what I report on as a co-enrolled. So I didn't know if that would either be something we could do here or if that would show up in the reporting later. Thank you.
So, Kelly, this wouldn't be something that's technically tracked in referral system because it wouldn't be in different title enrollments. This would be like supportive services.
Yeah, it's supportive services. Like we could flag it, like it could be coded. So like to Kathy's point, like, you've got, if you look at your menu of services, anything that is one of our WEO core partner titles, and they're doing a program referral, like we could flag it there and you could probably run reports off of that potentially, but there would be a way to flag it if I'm a Title I participant and I'm enrolled, and then I'm also enrolled in Title II services
Mhm.
From the program record, they can track that because they're an enrolled service. So that actually counts. It counts as a service record underneath WIOA services. So you can probably track it two different ways. One would be tracking co-enrolled referrals, and then the other one would be tracking referrals that are a WIOA core partner.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put this in our like other reporting needs here for our next one. We're gonna go over co-enrollment.
Yeah, and that's
'Cause-
important. Like if you look,
Mhm.
do we have John Hall on the call from 10?
I don't think so.
Okay, so like for example, well, we've got LBS 7 on the call too. Like they'll track between title, referrals between title and core partners. So being able to pull that out to Kathy's point to see like how are we doing, you know, between supportive services with our CBOs, that's great. But then how do we also track between title partners when we're giving referrals?
Okay. We'll connect with the developer on this too, because he may have some ideas to track that or pull that in a
Yeah.
different ways. So
And they could probably code it based off of the interagency referral guide.
okay.
And then an entity management, is that something that they could, like the entity could flag if they're part of one of those core partners? That way we're just making sure from their entire span in the system that we're coding them.
Yeah, and in the service locator, they do identify if they're part of one of those titles.
Okay,
So we'll get that information. So
awesome.
Perfect. Okay. And then Kathy, I don't know if you have an example of like the reporting you're currently doing that could also help us kind of get a good picture of the type of data that you need. Are you doing it manually right now?
Well, the reason I'm asking is because I don't have an example. So every year I
Okay.
have to report to the feds on Title II and our co-enrollment. This year we reported just slightly over 0.5% of our participants co-enrolled. So I'm not capturing the data. It's not being captured. So I didn't know if this was a place to capture it. And I didn't know if other core partners had trouble reporting out co-enrollment, if this would be a way to do that, or if that's outside of the scope of this particular project.
Well, I definitely think it should be a priority from our perspective if we're creating the system that we can track referrals to other partners.
And I will tell you what made me think about this a little bit more deeply as we were talking through this referral is at my administrators meeting, and then again at the end of the year where I share our data. I had so many people ask me who, believe it or not, I can't believe I'm saying it out loud, who the core partners are. What do each part, I was astounded with those types of questions, but I was also astounded with the questions of what counts as co-enrolled. Because per what we report on, it's very specific. So I don't know if this is a way to capture that or if that's just a Title II issue and we have to figure it, work with you guys in a different way.
Okay. I think there's definitely sounds like ways that we can look at pulling these different data points together to get a report. So we'll have to do a little bit more discovery and kind of work with the developer on it. And if we have more information we need kind of what you've been giving to the state too, Kathy, that would be helpful, which you can just go ahead and email that over to me if, you know, obviously redact anything that shouldn't be emailed for like security purposes. But the type of data you're having to report over and kind of patch together yourself, that way we can see the way that we can do that within
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's see. One thing that kind of got us thinking, Carrie, on one of your comments here. So not clear on how to like send a referral or find referrals that you had built in like the adding referral tab. So what we were kind of talking through today is more of like a list or tabs of like incoming referrals for your organization versus outgoing referrals. So that way you have kind of two lists to make it a little bit more simple. Or like filters or like filters there. So essentially when you have your, you know, customers that you're looking at, maybe you have like, you know, incoming referrals versus outcoming referrals. Yes.
Let's go down the road of tariffs and what.
Oh, okay. Maybe that wasn't for me. Okay, so, but within this, say I've got all of my people here. I have some people that might be being referred to me versus people I have referred. So kind of separating that out a little bit, because I know there was a little, definitely a mixed bag of feedback kind of asking around that. You know, it's kind of hard to see which ones I've sent or like which ones I should be responding to, especially if you're at an organization that receives both. So any additional feedback or comments you guys have there is definitely welcome. And then another big piece was, I know a few people I talked to had just concerns about the ability or participation of the different organizations within this. And I think, you know, we want to make sure that you can track things appropriately, but from like a policy, I can't speak to like a policy and procedure perspective from like the state point of view in terms of like, are we going to force all people to use this? So, or all of our partner organizations to use this. I know that's come up before, but one thing that we're adding due to that concern is ability to update the status of these referrals on behalf of the organization. That way, if you know that like Kelly's Workforce Center is working with Natasha because you have a good relationship with them, but maybe they're not great at updating from this email, then you can go in and say, you know, they've, you know, started working with the contact and be able to update on their behalf. Okay. And then Kelly, I wasn't able to replicate where, I know you were trying to go back and grab the referral link, but I wasn't able to replicate where they didn't save. So, we might have to like look at that with you again if you were still seeing that.
Yeah, I put 2 referrals for my customer.
Monroe.
Yeah, and then when I went back in, I wasn't seeing that they were showing underneath her profile.
Okay. Oh, and she's not showing for me because I am not the one that put her in. So, okay. We can double check that because I think I'll keep doing some testing on that on our end too, just to see if I can get that to replicate. Okay. Let's see. Sarah, your comment on responding to it, I addressed that above with just adding a little bit more instruction and information on what's needed of the response on the referral. And then I think Jake, being able to export all the contact information for one partner. So example, if you get 15 in a day, maybe that's like 15 emails, but like, I don't want to have to keep track of 15 emails. So being able to like export like a customer table to follow up with all those people with the information, needed services. Is that kind of what you were thinking?
Yeah, that's exactly because we have one partner that receives the majority of referrals, and I can just see that being they're just going to be kind of overwhelmed over a
Yeah.
while if they have to go to each one to collect like an email. A lot of times they'll group them and send the email out to the group.
Okay. Perfect. Wanted to make sure we understood that one. Okay, yeah. We talked with our developer today too, on this one, and he said that should be doable. So he's going to work. We're going to get some stories made so that that can get into the works. Okay. Okay, this is another one I mentioned earlier. Not sure how to find the referrals for me. So that's going to be addressed with adding that further functionality of ingoing versus outgoing. So we'll get that piece moving. Some information we got on the print and submit buttons are in the top corners. So let's see, where it makes sense, we're going to move those send referral, or if we change that to like a save and submit referral type thing to make it a little bit less, a little bit more user friendly or easier to follow. And then I think also there was another submit button that was kind of at the top. We're going to move those down to like a more less inconspicuous place, more conspicuous. Okay, let's see. Otherwise, so some of these, keeping the primary contacts updated is going to be essential to making the system work. Absolutely. I think as we were looking through that, kind of goes more with like policy and procedure of keeping that information up to date versus doing it within the system. But if anybody has ideas there, but I think ultimately that's going to be, with any system out there, having the right contact information up to date is going to be a big piece. Let's see. One thing that did come out of this, though, if an agency has a primary contact, can they pass along the referral to another staff member? Yes, they can do that. So you can forward the email because that link is open. And let's say, Joel's on vacation, so he's going to forward these to Carrie for this week. And then Carrie can go in and like respond to them with it being that open link, even though Joel might be the primary contact on the referral. One thing that wouldn't work well is if you like just forwarded it to another organization. So the system is built that whenever that referral is closed, it has a pop-up of like why it's going to be closed. So say in this case, receiving provider forwarded to another provider, if we click on that and then hit submit, it actually pulls up of like, okay, Harry Potter here, instead of going to me, is going to go to this other org and then save. So to be able to do that is the functionality that's going to happen in the future. Okay. We'll figure out what's going on with that too. I'm assuming it's just pulling the wrong data, so we'll get that figured out. And then Kathy, we had the pretty lengthy discussion of the co-enrollment and reporting needed, but I moved that over to our other dashboard and reporting one. So I'm going to delete this out of here so it's not duplicating. Okay, if there aren't any more comments on that one, we're going to go over just this last page here was more of like reviewing the different statuses and the color coding. So it sounds like majority of that was good, but Kelly, you were wanting to see an option to like edit or view additional notes and details. Were you wanting like a column in there, or more like if you were to click on like Natasha's workforce services to be able to edit from there?
Yeah, yes, exactly. Like if I could click on that, can I make a quick edit or view the notes there? Like this was just a stagnant display. And so I couldn't get back. Like if I wanted to go back and see if there's updates, maybe like my partners made a note like, oh, I met with this participant and, we're working on it or something. And they had more feedback. There wasn't a way to click past that. It was just flat.
I think
Okay.
this is addressed with a new update where you click on it, you'll see the timeline and have the ability to like either respond or send. I think.
You're saying from like this view.
Yeah, if you click on the link right there, click that, then you would be able to see at the top of this, the updated version that we have is a timeline at the top. We have a mock-up with a
Okay.
timeline at the top. And I think that then Kelly, you'd be able to see like where it is, or if you want to request a response, resend it or update it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't think that wasn't live before when we were testing, right?
No, and
Yeah,
that's what
okay.
Cody's working on this sprint.
Okay.
Is some of those updates. We have it broken down into like maybe like 3 cards because there's different
Sure.
sections to work on.
Okay. Thank you, Natasha. Okay, so the last one we really had on here, Sarah, just adding more instructions on what to do, or what the information, or what this information on these reports mean to a career planner, right? I think that is something where, if we have some content or kind of an idea of exactly how you want career planners to look at this information, we can definitely get that in the system to add some more like color around what they should be doing with the info. I think we would just need a little bit of help getting some additional content within, like the info bubbles or like instructions at the top, things like that.
That sounds good. What group would the local discovery group be the group for
Oh.
that? Or Kelly, are you thinking
Yeah.
like maybe some space during the state calls, like policy wise? I wouldn't think some of them are going to be state policy, but some of them I think would be helpful for a career planner who's actually doing it to use language that's, used in that role. But yeah, wherever you think, whatever meeting you think would be good to gain consensus on that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think referrals that count as a service, we have a service is tied to like to our policy, state policy and procedures. Outside of that, I think it would be more guidance and protocol amongst partners.
Okay, well, maybe we can get a little bit of information on a future like local call here, just kind of seeing the, how they train a new career planner to respond, to follow up on these different things.
Yeah, and Kelly, it's tied to the service matrix. So anything that would be, anything that's something that would be tied to policy would be part of the referral tied to the service matrix. So like something that's information only versus like an enrolled participant, there's different criteria that would kind of fall underneath the policy for making a referral.
Okay.
And that comment also was global, not just about this section. If there's like headers or something like that, okay, yeah. It's just more, I think little instructions would be helpful. I know it would have been helpful to me, but I'm also not a career planner. So
Just thinking more globally of having where it ties into guidance and protocol based on service matrix and a career planner's role. Okay. Perfect. Well, we only have about 12 minutes left here, so I want to make sure I can demo a little bit of the reports piece for you guys. The demo won't take super long, but are there any other comments anybody wants to make just around this release? Otherwise, really appreciate everyone's feedback. This gave us a lot to go on and a lot of things that we can make updates for, to build you guys a system that's going to be, as intuitive and helpful as possible. So let me pop now into, let me pull up our guide here. So first things first, I made another guide for you guys. This is release 4. This is centered around the dashboard and reporting. So the reporting we have right now is pretty there's not a whole lot in it at the moment. I think a lot of that, we don't have a full system that you guys are currently working for this. So there may be a lot of reporting that everyone is tracking on their own already, right? So manual things that you're tracking when it comes to referrals and reports. So I'm excited for this release for you guys to really get kind of your creative juices flowing in terms of what type of reporting functionality and reporting needs that you have, because this allows us to start creating those reports that are going to help you in your everyday work. So I will walk through like what we have in here. It has some information so that you at least have an idea to start getting your thoughts together in terms of the reports you need or what you would want from a dashboard. Because we can design one all day long, but if it doesn't have truly what you guys need, then it's going to miss the mark if we don't have the right feedback. So just to give you an idea there, but this is going to be due on next Thursday, so the 30th. But this one is I would say less involved than some of our other ones. So you're going to be less of putting, information in the system, more of kind of testing the different reports in here and thinking about which ones you would need, or, hey, I like the look of this report, but it doesn't really help me unless I have this field and this field to go with it in terms of data. So I want you guys to think through that. But per usual, make sure you test thoroughly. Your UAT notebook is here, and I created a tab for release 4. So make sure that you put that into that specific release one. But as we scroll down, it is going to walk you through the different dashboards. So I'm going to go through these in a live aspect too, but we have a example of a dashboard here for you. Definitely need some feedback of what's important to you guys in terms of that. But I'll pop over here actually, and we'll go through that next. But really the guide's going to walk you through how to pull these reports up, what they tell you, everything like that. So we'll walk through this now in the live version. So when you log in, go ahead and go to reports. When you click on reports, it's going to drop you to the dashboard here first thing. So under your reports drop down here, you've got your report dashboard, and then there's a couple other reports I'm going to go over here. But one note on this one is that these graphics here for the dashboard are not like connected to live system data right now, but they're really allowing you to see the layout or like types of visualizations that we're considering based on what we know. So based on what you need, we can kind of adapt this appropriately. So we've got like the incoming versus outgoing referrals that we've chatted through, what those status breakdowns are. So especially from an incoming view, right? If we have a bunch of referrals that are past 10 days, we need to make sure that we're following up on those, right? But then it'll also break down here, most of our referrals are coming from organization A. They're sending us a lot. Who are our top ones we're sending out right now? So you're able to see some of those. And then down further, you've got referrals over time. So maybe, a big event happens in March, we've got a spike. You're able to see those type of things. And then just referral destination option example down here as well. On the left, you're able to break it down by
Kelly. Kathy has a question. She had her
sorry, yep, go ahead.
You're fine. I'm just trying to, use my manners because I tend to jump in and talk too much. So I'm trying really hard not to be that person.
You're good.
We have all of this tracking for the number of referrals made. Is there a tracking for how many referrals were picked up?
You mean incoming versus outgoing? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, if I let's just say I refer a student to an out-of-school youth program and it's denied legitimately because a student doesn't meet criteria. I have a way of understanding I probably need to do some training on better referrals or better understanding the system. The other side of that is I made a referral. The student was picked up for an out-of-school youth program and begins receiving wraparound services. So we talk so much about the actual referral, but I'm looking at referral outcomes. Is that client being picked up and served? So where do I find that information?
Do we need like a more what's under, can you go show like completed? I can't remember the definition for completed.
Oh,
You know, like
Is
if
that,
you're,
okay, does it
yeah,
completed me? Okay, is that what it means?
completed,
It's
we
picked up?
might, you know, but maybe that is something that we need to have like a secondary follow-up type thing. So like thinking like when you're doing your, like if you go back and look at a referral and you do, and also these, I don't know if Cody has them hooked up or not, but those will be linked to actual people. But
Yeah,
like,
because I don't know what referral completed and referral closed means. Does the completed mean that you've looked at it and done something with it? Does it mean that you've received it and closed it because it's in your hands? I guess as the referring, and this is one of the things that I hear from my programs is they never get that loop closed about they've made a referral to something, but never hear back if that student is picked up. Now, I do think that's something that we need to be better at in following up with, but as a rule, and this is not only for us, for Title II, so if these are not needed steps, that's completely understandable. But from my lens, having a way for me to be able to see that we successfully served the student, this client with wraparound supports, or that didn't, because then I can go in there and say, oh, I need to make better training on referral processes or what's happening.
right. And I think, yeah, so close, they didn't receive the service. And then if you hover over completed, I think it says that they receiving part indicates they has attended an orientation, was enrolled, or received services. So it kind of groups that all in there. So if your recommendation is like it needs like a is like another flag, like they were enrolled, or you know, like, because this kind of groups those all together.
Yeah, I think
You
because
know,
understanding who gets the wraparound services and which ones are not getting served, is it closed because of those reasons? It gives us ways to actually support our system.
yeah. But
And make, you know,
sorry, can't click on closed for a second. I think, does it give you, yeah, for closed, it gives you a reason why they're not, but maybe we need to do something like that for completed. You know, like a standard set of reasons why it's closed. They didn't receive it, they were forwarded to somebody else, something like that. But do we need something like that under completed? Like a secondary follow-up type to
Yeah.
gather a little bit more information?
I would like that, but again, this is a system. What does everybody else think?
I think that that's also a really great point, Kathy. We need to know if not just that they made it there, but then like what's the next step. From, is there anyone, I know that other systems have like, throughout the state might have something similar to this. What is on those systems, if anybody's on the call that's using them throughout the state? Or does anyone know?
Or Kathy, make a recommendation, we can put it out there and
Hey,
people
I
can
would make
provide
a
their feed.
recommendation that
Yeah.
we segregate the data just a little bit more to referrals, accepted services provided, referral unaccepted, services not provided. We can work on the language. We can massage the language.
Yeah, or so we can leave the completed, it's just like a follow-up, like they received, they enrolled, they
Right.
completed, something like that. We'll start out with that and then see what people say. How about that?
And
Hi.
Natasha, I thought that there was different status options for referral closed as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if you
Yes.
click on
Mhm.
the closed, it gives you
Yeah.
options. It's just
Okay.
like
We don't have for completed.
completed doesn't give you that like
Yeah.
follow-up question.
Mhm.
Yeah. This is Patty. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm looking for where I can raise my hand and I can't find the icon. So I'm just gonna jump in. So in LWA 7, we use Airtable. And we have a note section when we refer from partner to partner, whatever the agency is. And they follow up through Airtable in the note section.
Okay.
Whether it's been accepted or not, and what are the next steps. So I don't know if that's answering.
Yeah, they can do notes, I believe, whenever they do a response. The one nice thing about having the follow-up question is like it's easier to put it, you know, like in a report or something, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I do like adding notes to both when it's accepted and when it's not accepted, because we would want, if something's like continuously being not accepted.
And you want to know
Um,
why.
And I want, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Let's see here. And next time too, we'll have a lot of time to discuss the different things put in the notebook, which I'm excited to see what you guys put together. When it comes to the other reporting here, we have a referral status report and a referral services report. So when we click on referral statuses from the drop down, you're going to get a pie chart here. You've got needs attention, warning, and successful. When you go to the list view, it breaks that down further into, okay, we've got 7 referral receives, attempting contact for 3, that type of thing. And then Natasha, you were saying this will be like hyperlinked
Well,
later.
yeah,
Right?
we need to check with Cody because I thought those were
Okay.
already hype, but they don't look like they are right now.
Not currently. I just wanted to make sure too. Okay, so eventually this will have like connection to like, hey, we have 7 customers for 12 referrals that are in the received section that I might need to follow up on. So you'll be able to dig more into that. And then you've got like, okay, I've got 14 referrals past 10 days that, you know, haven't had any info. So I need to definitely follow up on those. And then again, you've got your graph view, list view. When we go down to referral services, this further breaks down, you know, what type of referrals are being sent. So breaks down, we've got 19 customers. For those 19 customers, we sent out 45 referrals for basic needs assistance. When you look into the list view, kind of just gives you a list view of that table. So again, if there are things that, you know, you think would be helpful in these different reports we already have in here, or if this gets your mind moving towards, you know, actually, I like where this is headed. I would like to have information like this, but currently I need XYZ in addition to what's right here. That'll give us some more information so that we can create you the right type of reporting. So that's a little bit about what we've got there. So again, a lot less functionality that you're testing, a lot more brainstorming that we're really needing from you all to create, you know, the right system for you that, you know, has the most value in terms of your, you know, tracking of this process and being able to run the correct reports and meaningful alerts, things like that. But what I know we're a couple minutes over, so any other questions? Otherwise, we'll give it till the 30th. So you've got about, you know, 10 days total, 8-ish working days to kind of go in and play around with this and let us know your feedback.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, thank you, everyone.